So we got some Montreal Canadiens things to dive into here. And while it's true, the Habs play off against the Tampa Bay Lightning in game number 5 today, I wanted to also talk about the prospects, because in the midst of a big and intense playoff series, there are probably less spotlights shown on some of the extra elements of the team. I know there are some people that comment on these videos and on different parts of social media. They're like, hey, Lego, we don't care about the prospects right now. We're in the gosh darn playoffs. That's what we care about. And yes, that's true. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and the playoff series against Tampa. I want to talk about Martin St. Louis, some of the stuff that's been coming out of his mouth lately, and I also wanted to talk about prospects. Because when it comes to one of the more important ones, and impressive ones, we had ourselves an update posted about on social media in regards to Alexander Zharovsky, last year's 34th overall pick by the Montreal Canadiens, and how he has confirmed Sunday that he is remaining with Salavat Ule of Ufa in the KHL. He's doing this to honor the final season of his contract in Russia. This post on the RHAB subreddit takes the biscuit 99 said, so it seems like Gerovski is staying in the KHL for 2026-2027. It feels like we're going to have to wait forever to see what this kid is at the NHL level. Gerovski was a 3-time Rookie of the Month at the KHL, and he was also named to the All-Star Game. With 16 goals and 42 points in 59 games, Gerovski ranked 3rd on Salavat's scoring and was 2nd in points per game. So obviously, we acknowledge the fact that Alexander Zharovsky has been one of the most impressive second-round draft picks the Montreal Canadiens had gotten in the first year of play post-draft. This guy has been so damn impressive, and it's gotten to a point now where early redrafts posted on various social media websites are talking about how Zharovsky probably could be seen as a first-round caliber talent, whom, as we all recognize, ended up getting taken by Montreal in the 34th overall spot. So, a second-rounder, in reality, a first-round caliber talent based off of the amount of points this guy's been able to produce in the KHL. You take a look at some of the other KHL phenoms, the Mishkovs, the Demidovs, etc., and Zharovsky is right in there in a similar point production territory compared to some of those guys. There are elements to his game that you can say need improvement. I think no player, especially that young, in the KHL is perfect. This guy might not necessarily come over to Montreal and become Demidov 2.0. I do think there are some pace elements to his game that need improving, as well as some off-puck things, too. But at the end of the day, Alexander Zharovsky is a super impressive name that is just going to benefit from more time in Russia's top pro league. Ivan Demidov was undisputably the best offensive player on his team in his last season over there. Zharovsky, there's still a little bit of room for doubt, so use the extra time in the KHL, get that physical maturity up there, just kind of understand the game more, and try to get more points, you know? Zharovsky did all this stuff that he did at 18/19 years old. Next season will start, and he will be 19 turning 20. Still technically a junior player, so there are records that can be up for grabs for Alexander Zharovsky next season. While it's true that he did end up declining in points in the second half or the third quarter of the year, this is ultimately what sticking around in the KHL will benefit him for. Just getting his body up to pace, allowing him to consistently get results and sustain that for an entire season. Plus, I mean, Montreal has a pretty good asset here in general, whether he does come to Montreal right away or not. You gotta remember, reports were suggesting that if the Canadiens did not trade for Noah Dobson, they didn't make the trade involving 2 first-round picks, they probably would have taken Zharovsky with one of those draft selections anyway, so The fact that that value was allocated to a second-round selection and the first-round picks ended up becoming Noah Dobson, obviously that's Montreal maximizing the value that they have. And besides, next season you can say, it is going to be David Reinbacher's time to potentially contend for the Calder Trophy and be in that conversation. 2025, it was Hudson. 2026, it's Demidov. 2027, it's Reinbacher. And then 2028, Alexander Zharovsky, baby. That's how it's going to go down. Also, I do think it's a good sign that the guy is just willing to finish his duty and his contract in Russia. I'm not necessarily advocating for bringing him over right away, but if he wants to stick around and see through what it was he committed to, there's a certain admiration that you can have for another human being who decides to stick it out. With that said, sticking it out, let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens and Tampa Bay game number 5, which is going to be going later today. I wanted to focus on a specific element of Juraj Slafkovsky's game, because it's been a pretty decent conversation over the past 2 days or so that ever since Juraj Slafkovsky got taken down by Brandon Hagel, ever since he got hit hard by Max Crozier, there are some conversations that you could ask yourself as to whether or not Juraj Slafkovsky and his impact has been neutralized throughout the course of this playoff series and potentially for the rest of the entire contest. Obviously, we hope that's not the case, but it has been apparent that Juraj Slafkovsky has not really done too much ever since the hat-trick he had scored in Game 1 in overtime. This is what Marty St. Louis went out there and said about whether or not the Max Crozier hit put Juraj Slafkovsky in a bad spot. If you let that define the series, you're putting yourself in a bad spot. Don't let moments like that define the series. Rewrite it. And every time I read a quote from Martin St. Louis about the Montreal Canadiens and what their mindset should be, the motivational stuff that you can see on the back of your $15 greeting cards at Shoppers Drug Mart, obviously, I'm not throwing any shade here, but the way Martin St. Louis talks to the media, if this is the way the guy is as a head coach, this is the kind of guy that you want to play for. He's the kind of guy that inspires so many positive emotions that it's almost like Aaron Smith out of Attack on Titan. This is the guy commanding his soldiers to run forward, fly, and potentially die in the process, but you're committing yourself to the greater good. That's how this Juraj Slafkovsky situation should be viewed. Oh, don't take this moment and allow it to define your series, define the way you respond. No, take that, scrunch it up into a ball, and toss it in the trash can, because that is what we are capable of. I love this guy, man. Erwin Smith. In fact, I feel like I want to use the Erwin Smith image in the thumbnail of this video. I know I have one. When was the last time we used it? It was in, a Detroit Red Wings video or something, but anyways, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below when it comes to Juraj Slafkovsky and his inactivity throughout the course of the previous few games. Is this Game 5 going to be the turning point? Is he finally going to get back on his ship and start scoring some goals? Is Martin St. Louis' pep talk going to put him in a better spot? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about today's Game 5, as well as the Alexander Zharovsky situation. The fact that he is going back to Russia and he will be sticking around in the KHL a little bit longer. Thoughts in the comment section below. How is that going to affect his development? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.